Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something really central for advanced Mahamudra practitioners. It's one thing to get that glimpse, that realization of the mind's nature, right?
Right.
But holding on to it,
Yeah.
integrating it seamlessly into, well, the messiness of everyday life. That's a whole different ballgame.
It really is. That's the core challenge, you could say.
So we're diving deep into the Kagyu lineage wisdom today, really focusing on this skill of integration.
Exactly. And the sources we're looking at, masters like Saraha, Milarepa, Gampopa, they're incredibly direct about what's at stake here. For practitioners who are already, familiar with calm abiding, with insight meditation, the line between real success and, frankly, failure on this path, it really comes down to unifying the meditative state and the post-meditative state.
Keeping them separate just doesn't cut it long term.
It doesn't. That profound insight you might have had on the cushion, it fades if it's not lived, if it's not integrated.
And the masters used some pretty striking images to warn against this failure, didn't they? Saraha's analogy is, well, quite shocking.
It is. He talks about the yogin who has this realization, understands the mind's nature, but then just goes back to their old habits, prioritizing mundane stuff.
Yeah.
He says that person is like a king who refused the throne to sweep garbage in the marketplace. Just, wow.
Refusing the throne to sweep garbage, that paints a picture. It really speaks to that tragedy of potential just squandered.
Absolutely. And Tsangpa Gyare added more context, comparing someone who can't sustain that meditative insight to like a rich man whose entire fortune gets blown away in a hurricane. Or like a priceless gem just dropped and swallowed up by a swamp. Gone.
So the lesson is pretty clear. Wisdom alone isn't enough. It needs constant application.
Integration.
Continuous integration, exactly. Otherwise, it offers no real protection, no lasting transformation. Okay, so if that sustained integration is the absolute goal, we need to look at the common traps. Yeah. What's the first, maybe most subtle pitfall for someone who's already had some genuine insight?
Well, the first major deviation is often a bit counterintuitive, especially for people trained in very traditional ways.
Go on.
It's an over-reliance on accumulating merit through conventional virtuous actions, things done with body, speech, or mind.
Okay, wait. I have to push back there a little because, I mean, that sounds potentially problematic. We spend years learning how vital good conduct and accumulating merit are.
Right.
So why, at this advanced stage of Mahamudra, is that suddenly cautioned against? Isn't there a risk of, sliding into laziness or even ethical carelessness?
That's a really important clarification. It's definitely not a rejection of good conduct itself, not at all.
Okay.
It's more about a shift in focus and, crucially, motivation. Good deeds are, of course, vital on the path leading to realization. But once you've directly realized the mind's simple, unconditioned, empty nature, then effortfully striving to rack up conventional virtual points, so to speak, actually becomes a distraction. It subtly reinforces conceptual thinking, this idea of me doing something virtuous, separate from the nature you've already realized.
Ah, I see. It reinforces the duality you're trying to overcome. Sarah nailed this too, didn't he? Comparing it to...
Yes, exactly. He said, striving for conventional virtue after realizing the unconditioned is like collecting pebbles, being the possessor of precious stones.
You've already got the diamond. Why go back to picking up gravel?
Precisely. The whole focus shifts towards this principle of non-doing, or effortless abiding. Tsangpa put it bluntly. What's beyond concepts cannot be understood through intellect or complicated thinking.
Makes sense.
And you can't grasp the meaning of non-doing by frantically engaging in activity. The realization is already there. Effort just stirs things up and obscures it.
And Milarepa specifically warned about this in the context of Mahamudra practice. He advised not to get too fixated on virtuous deeds.
Right, not because the deeds themselves are bad,
but because the striving itself, that attachment to the activity, can actually make you lose the non-conceptual wisdom you've gained. The aim becomes just, keeping the mind in its natural state, effortlessly.
Continuously, effortlessly. And to maintain that natural state, that effortless presence, there are three mental qualities the practitioner absolutely has to cultivate and preserve constantly.
Okay, what are they?
They are mindfulness, or smiti, alertness, sampradanya, and underlying both, awareness. Think of them as the gatekeepers, always on duty against distraction and falling back into conceptual habits.
Let's unpack those a bit, especially since the terms can get technical. So, mindfulness, snuti. How's it defined precisely here?
It's defined as the mental factor that allows attention to be held without forgetting on the chosen object of concentration. And at this advanced stage, that object is the mind's own non-conceptual nature.
So it's about not forgetting the realization.
Exactly, and the older texts really emphasize its protective quality. The Ratnachuta Sutra, for example, says mindfulness acts like a shield against negative states, against difficult emotions. It's the gatekeeper stopping unhelpful mental stuff from taking over. It keeps the focus inward.
Right, holding the attention steady. Now, for listeners who are really deep into the texts, our sources mention different kinds or levels of this mindfulness as the practice matures. Could you walk us through those?
Sure, the texts distinguish four main types. First, there's a basic mindfulness that just distinguishes different phenomena. Second, mindfulness that perceives their unique characteristics.
Okay, getting more specific.
Third, mindfulness that actively analyzes phenomena. This is key in insight meditation, obviously. But the fourth one is the crucial one for Mahamudra.
Which is?
Mindfulness of the true nature of phenomena itself. The first three are still somewhat conceptual tools. But this fourth one is non-conceptual. It leads directly to stability, to freedom from delusion. It's the real doorway into Mahamudra proper, beyond just analysis.
Okay, so that's mindfulness making.
Yeah.
What about the second quality? Alertness, samprajanya.
Alertness is defined as the mental factor that checks, again and again, the state of the body and mind. It's the quality control.
So if mindfulness is holding the focus.
Alertness is like the security guard constantly scanning the perimeter. It watches out for the two main enemies of stable meditation. Mental dullness, like sleepiness, or mental excitement, like agitation or distraction.
And Shantideva pointed out that if you cultivate both of these together, mindfulness and alertness,
the non-dual awareness just naturally emerges. It arises spontaneously from that balance.
the texts really hammer home how vital this pair is. The entrance to the Bodhisattva path uses that image of a leaky vessel, right?
Yes, saying that without mindfulness, even if you gather vast knowledge or put in tons of effort, it all just leaks away. Nothing sticks.
It's like trying to fill a bucket with holes.
Exactly. And Nagarjuna, well, he really summed it up. He called mindfulness the nectar of immortality. And its absence, the rope tying us to samsara. For the advanced yogi, this isn't just poetic language, it's functional. If you let that attention drop, even for a second, those deeply ingrained habits of dualistic thinking just rush right back in.
Which brings us to maybe the trickiest phrase in these advanced texts. They talk about mindfulness not tied to recollections and mental constructs. Now, if you're supposed to be continuously attentive, but also not really thinking, what does that state actually feel like? What does it mean in practice?
Yeah, this trips a lot of people up. It's crucial to understand what it's not.
Okay, what isn't it?
It's not being forgetful. It's not being unconscious or asleep. The texts are really clear on this. They even warn that if you equate non-recollection with just being unconscious, then fainting would count as some kind of profound realization.
Which is obviously absurd.
Clearly. So the mind isn't stopped. It isn't blank or asleep.
So what's the difference then between the kind of thinking you need to do, like figuring out directions or remembering your grocery list, and this complicated thinking or mental constructs you're supposed to avoid?
That's the heart of it. The phrase, not tied to recollections or constructs, points specifically to the absence of dualistic thinking. It means letting go of that complicated, self-referential, grasping the constant commentary about me and mine, and whether things are inherently real or unreal.
Okay.
Necessary functional thinking, navigating traffic, doing your job that's different. It's contextual analysis. It isn't trying to pin down the ultimate nature of reality or your own mind.
So the practitioner has already used analysis to see the mind's empty, non-graspable nature. And now they just stop analyzing that realization itself. They just rest in it without adding commentary.
Precisely. And it's vital to remember this non-conceptual state doesn't just happen out of the blue. It follows intense, successful analytical meditation.
Right. Analysis pays the way.
Analysis is the tool that breaks down the conceptual walls. But the texts insist that it's only this non-conceptual state, the one not tied to recollections, that truly lets the realization of emptiness sink in and remove those deep-seated delusions about past, present, and future. That's what cements the integration.
Okay, this leads us straight into the practical application. How do we really tell the difference between the meditative state and the post-meditative state? Especially when we're aiming for that continuous clarity of Mahamudra's 4 yogas. It gets subtle.
It does get subtle. The fundamental distinction isn't about whether you're sitting on a cushion or not. It's based purely on the mind's condition.
Okay, how so?
The meditative state is defined as when the mind is resting naturally in its realized clarity, unaffected by either dullness or excitement. Coarse thoughts, especially ego-driven ones, have subsided. There's a sense of transparency.
And the post-meditative state.
That arises the moment the mind has already been distracted. It's the state where you notice you've wandered and you now have to consciously apply effort to bring attention back to that non-conceptual resting place. It involves that corrective action.
Ah, so it's about the effort needed to return.
Exactly. And the Master Zheshang made this crucial point. The difference isn't about the formal session boundaries. If complex, grasping thoughts pop up while you're sitting formally, you've actually already slipped into the post-meditative state. You're in correction mode.
Okay.
Conversely, if you're walking down the street or working or talking, but your mind maintains that clear, non-grasping transparency, that's still the meditative state.
Wow, that really reframes everything. It's the mind's transparency, the lack of grasping, not the posture or location that defines the state. But here's a challenge for the advanced person. How do you distinguish that genuine, subtle clarity from subtle dullness? That seems like a razor's edge.
It absolutely is, and that's where alertness, the sampajanya, has to be incredibly sharp. Subtle dullness feels kind of flat. There's a lack of vividness, a lack of mental vibrancy. You couldn't easily engage in analysis if you needed to.
Whereas true clarity.
True clarity, the meditative state, is characterized by both transparency and luminosity. The mind feels vividly present, bright, even if there aren't active thoughts running through it. So the ultimate goal in advanced Mahamudra becomes making this whole distinction irrelevant. By achieving such continuous clarity that you genuinely don't distinguish between conceptual states and non-conceptual states anymore, you realize there's no inherent difference when the mind is abiding in its nature.
Offered 3 very practical skills, didn't he? To support the meditative state and ease that transition from more structured practice to formless realization.
Yes, 3 essential skills. The first relates to the body. Proper posture is helpful, sure, as foundational training, but the key here is combining it with deep relaxation of both body and mind. Not tension, but ease. Letting the mind settle naturally.
Okay, ease in the body. What's the second skill?
The second deals with handling mental flaws, basically. Applying the middle way. It means allowing the mind to just stay in its natural, effortless state without constantly second-guessing yourself.
Ah, getting rid of that nagging doubt. Am I doing this right? Is this it?
Exactly. Letting go of that anxious inner commentary. Effortlessness is the aim.
And the third skill?
Gradual development. Start with shorter periods of intense, focused, effortless abiding. Then, slowly, gradually increase the duration. Build that stamina, that resilience, until the practice becomes stable and truly spontaneous no matter what you're doing.
Gampopa also gave us those incredible images, those 5 analogies, to summarize what this realization of non-substantiality, this integrated state, actually looks like. Can you unpack those for us? How do they map onto the experience?
They're like a complete checklist for the qualities of the integrated mind. First, make the mind open and spacious, like space itself. Total openness, no boundaries.
Okay, spaciousness.
Second, expand your awareness to encompass all mental events that arise, like the whole world. Include everything, reject nothing. Third, keep the mind stable, unwavering, not easily distracted, solid like a mountain.
Space, world, mountain. Got it. What are the last 2?
Fourth, intensify the awareness so it becomes self-luminous, bright and clear, like lighting a lamp in the dark. This counters any dullness.
Vividness.
And fifth, keep the mind free from being stained or obscured by thoughts and emotions, perfectly clear and transparent like a crystal. It reflects everything but isn't affected by it.
Space, world, mountain, lamp, crystal. That's powerful.
It's a complete picture. These skills and images all point to the same thing. Real integration hinges entirely on that continuous, skillful dance of mindfulness and alertness. That's what bridges the gap between deep insight and everyday life.
So the whole journey is this subtle shift, isn't it? From effortful, deliberate focusing towards a kind of spontaneous mindfulness that just is. It doesn't need constant propping up anymore.
That spontaneity is the end point. Remember Virupa's analogy of integration being like lighting a fire with friction sticks.
Insidious friction, yeah.
If you maintain that friction, that sustained effort of integration, eventually spontaneous mindfulness just takes over. And when that happens, the very illusion of duality of the meditator, separate from the meditation, just dissolves. It's seen as another concept that falls away.
So for you listening, if you're practicing at this level, what if you took these teachings truly to heart? Focus less on accumulating things of merit, hours on the cushion, and more on simply, subtly, maintaining that spontaneous clarity What would your life actually look like if there were genuinely no moments when you were not meditating? That seamless flow, that's the real fruit of realizing the mind's true nature.